the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to episode 143 of Costa Rica Real Estate Investments with me, your host, Richard Bexon. Today, we're going to be talking with Nick Halverson, owner of Osa Property Management, located in the South Pacific of Costa Rica. They manage properties from Manuel Antonio in the Central Pacific area, which I'm sure many of you know, all the way down to Osa in the South. So we're going to be talking to Nick about his experiences in Costa Rica, the part that technology plays in property management, and how to maximize your vacation rental returns. So it's going to be a great podcast here just because Nick has had a wealth of knowledge and manages some of the, I would say, the most luxurious properties on the Central and Southern Pacific coasts here. Remember, guys, if you want to reach out to us, you can do. It's been great chatting with some of you and also now working with some of you. I think if we could summarize what it is that we do, it's basically kind of advise you on making the right decisions for you when it comes to buying and investing in Costa Rica. We're not realtors. You pay us, I suppose, or hire us to be on your side of the transaction, making sure that we understand your lifestyle and investment goals and making sure that the product that you actually end up buying or investing into really reaches and achieves those lifestyle and investment goals. We work all over the country and have a big office here in the city. So we fly out all over the place, as many of you know. You can reach out to us, info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. But let's get straight into the podcast with Nick. Good morning, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Very good. Appreciate you taking the time to join us on the podcast. I've been an admirer of yours from afar. And again, it's been great to meet you, get to know you a little bit more, and now get you on the podcast to know a little bit more about you, also property management, and also kind of some of the driving factors behind vacation rentals here in Costa Rica.
I love it. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time.
Not at all, not at all. Well, I mean, Nick, the question I always like to start off with is just, with the economy of where it is at the moment, the uncertainty in the world. I mean, what are you seeing happening in Costa Rica, in your area, at the moment? Are you still seeing it on an upward swing? Is it steadying out a little bit? Are you seeing a bit of a downturn? I mean, what are you seeing?
Sure. From a real estate standpoint, now bear in mind, we don't sell, we're not real estate agents. We're pure property managers. But I can tell you the real estate market appears to be strong. Very strong still. In terms of pricing, you should talk to your real estate agent about pricing and value. However, in terms of good homes are still being bought. If quality homes are still being bought. In terms of a rental standpoint, there's some softening going on, but that's a global phenomenon right now. I mean, that is across the United States. There was such built up rental demand during COVID that when the walls of COVID that had been put up fell, it was just a gold rush of everybody just having all this money and wanting to just get out of their house and go everywhere. And that's starting to level out a little bit. And so we've had to adjust to that. But again, Costa Rica is always in demand. It's a global destination. It's a dream destination for a lot of people, a lot of anniversaries and weddings and that sort of thing. So sure. I don't think it's as susceptible to some of the other kind of trendy locations. Costa Rica is Costa Rica.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting what you said there, though, because, again, I just want to kind of break that down a little bit. Like, how would you say 2018 and 19 compares to this year? Because, like, 2020, 2021, and 2022 was just like everyone was drunk, Right. Now, I think we're starting to see some form of like what post-pandemic normality is. But how would you compare that prior to it, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the ICETE numbers, this is the Tourism Institute from Costa Rica, the numbers are still below 2019 in terms of foreigners entering the country. So it's close. I mean, it's within single digits now, percentage-wise. In terms of our specific area, and just for your listeners, we operate around 50 property vacation rentals between Manuel Antonio to the north, and then south down to about 10 minutes south of Ojochal. In our area, it's still somewhat emerging. So people are still in high demand. Houses are still in high demand. I think some of the other areas may not be experiencing the same sort of demand we are. I've been in this area for 18 years. So I remember when Uvita was literally just one commercial center and one gas station. And yet, when you talk to people moving there today, it's still being discovered because it's not the Guanacaste model. There's not towers, condominium towers everywhere. And there's still a lot of fresh farms to buy, if you will, in terms of a development standpoint. But demand, I think we are approaching the new normal. Interest rates do impact us. What impact us more than anything, really, though, are airfare tickets. Those have doubled pretty much in the last 12 months. So it used to cost around $600 to $800 now to get from, say, Minneapolis, where I fly in and out of a lot. You know, a flight used to be about $650 to San Jose. Now it's pushing $1,200 to $1,500 on a normal ticket. So when you start multiply that out with four-person family or six, now you're looking between $6,000 and $9,000 just to get down there. So the value for the vacation rental side, you've really got to adjust and try to still be in the budget for those people.
Well, it's funny that you say that on flights, because again, I just put flights from, maybe it's the other way around, it's not it, but from San Jose to Denver and back next January. But I was able to pick them up for like $600. I think if you look far enough in advance, you could probably still get some great deals. But I know, again, I've had clients, spend $2,000 on a flight down here last minute.
Correct. Yes. And it's always about the future. And if you look at some of our data, it actually will depend on the home, but a lot of our rentals are within 60 days. So outside of holiday season, we are getting, we're getting bookings now 7, 8, 9 months in advance, and that's normal. But when it looks into kind of the down season, the low season, our average from day of purchase to day of entering the house is in the 40s in most cases. So there's a lot of last minute purchasing. So
yeah, I mean, we even saw that again. I worked in travel for many years, and like that, it was kind of anywhere from like 30 to 60, sometimes as far as 90 days, but it was really 30, 60 days out. People were making that decision, unless it was a holiday season or a really busy time of the year. That they would be booking months out in advance.
That's correct. Yes. So we like to make sure that we have our pricing set properly for the holidays well in advance. We use a pricing software, dynamic pricing software, to protect us and to ensure that we're maximizing revenue for our owners.
Yeah, I mean, let's just touch on that a sec. I mean, what things do you think that owners can do? Because a lot of people that listen to this podcast are looking to invest. They already have, vacation rentals or are looking to build. But like, what things do you think owners can do or can work with their property management company in order to really maximize revenue? The
number one thing owners must recognize is that they are in the hospitality industry at the moment they want to rent their house out. It is not, it is as an owner, they're always looking at it through a lens of it's a home. And for you, that's true. It is a home. From a vacationer, it's a place to stay and it's a place to sleep. Therefore, you need to think about that. You need to put yourself in their shoes. Spending money on tchotchkes or expensive artwork is a waste of money. Going too high quality, actually even on towels, can be a complete waste of money. And there's an operational reason. One, there's a cost reason. But two, from an operational standpoint, to be able to wash and dry those towels in a fast manner is nearly impossible. So if you really want a high thread count on towels, you should have two dryers in your home so the cleaning crew can get them in and out. If you want to maximize revenue from a rental standpoint, really make sure and really focus on what guests want. Guests want safety, they want fast internet, they want clean, and they want things that are simple and easy to understand. The more complex a house gets with special features, that can be, I would really hesitate about spending too much focus on fountains and fancy water features, because we all know with the electrical grid in Costa Rica, there's lots of surges. Like power surges are terrible for pool pumps, pool timers, and anything related to plugged into the grid. So when you are promoting a house with a water feature and a guest shows up and that water feature doesn't work, that's going to immediately put a bad taste in their mouth. So keep it simple, keep it beautiful. And I would say, listen to your property manager. We are, and I'm speaking on behalf of Osa Property Management, but our goal is to rent out the house at the highest possible rate as often as possible. Keeping in mind, our number one goal, our number one job as a property manager is to make sure your property, your investment is protected in terms of quality, in terms of damages or things like that. With that said, you need to make sure you have enough of when you're in the hospitality world, it's the non-sexy stuff. You need to make sure you have enough towels. You need to make sure you have enough sheets. You have to make sure you have enough pillows, and understand that when people are on vacation, they're celebrating more. They're doing more things that they probably don't do at home as often. And you're going to go through sheets. You're going to go through towels. You're going to go through things like that. And that's part of the price to pay. of being in the hospitality world. I think too often people look at it, and we run into this every once in a while from a homeowner standpoint, and they say, well, this is my home and I just bought towels, 8 months ago. Why do I have to buy more? I said, well, we've had 20 reservations during that time, and that's a lot of washing, that's a lot of usage, and we need to make sure those towels are still in good condition. So there is an education process, and some owners, quite frankly, just never get to that point. We've been known to drop owners that aren't a good fit for us for that reason. We want to make sure the guests, when they come down and stay at your house, are focused on having fun and not focused on the fact that the towels are old or the sheets have a hole in them.
Yeah. Well, and again, you notice that stuff in like 2 seconds. And I think, that initial impact when a client walks in and starts to see stuff at the beginning, like if it starts off bad, it's really difficult to recover. So like those initial impressions of and it's simple stuff, as you said there, like, sheets, towels, like don't make it too common. Like let them get in the pool and be happy when they get in the pool. If they find something after, as soon as they've been in the pool and had a couple of drinks, like it's okay from there.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, in fact, we've just recently changed our processes in terms of staging our homes for, when I say staging, I'm talking about for the renters. We have a set process. We have our own cleaners in-house. So our cleaners get to know a house, and the longer we manage a house, the better the cleaners know it, the better everything gets in terms of also on the rental and the revenue side, because we get better reviews. Or the reviews, we have more reviews, which pushes our pricing software up and our revenue goes up. We supply all of the soaps, all of the shampoos, all the shower gels. They're in our own containers, own branded containers. So across all of our homes, that way, when a guest rents from us, they're getting the same experience. So that way, we know that they're not going to ask us for shampoo because we've already put the shampoo in there. So there's ways that we, as the property management company, are trying to ensure that the guests are focused on their time in the country and everything from in the house to, and for us, we have a full-time concierge. So his only job is to make sure that their guests, that when the guest lands in San Jose, ideally the next week or as many days they're in the country is planned out for them, whether that's dinner reservations, private shuttles to and from airports, or wherever it is. That way it brings that stress level down, because it's all about that experience in the house and that ultimate review. And if we can do anything, we do everything we can to decrease that stress by having itineraries in place. People know where they're supposed to be. They know where to buy their groceries. They know, God forbid, there's an accident, they know where to go for the clinic. So our guests all have digital guidebooks that they have access to at the moment of reservation, that they can go into their phones and find all that information out. So it kind of all connects through to that house, because when we're providing photos of the house and photos of the beach towels and everything else, there's that expectation when they walk through the door and they see it and everything matches and everything is exactly as we said it was going to be, then it just brings that stress level down.
I mean, you're basically staying in a hotel. I mean, in a that's what it is. I mean, it's an experience of a hotel, but like it's just one hotel you're staying in. There's no other guests.
Absolutely correct. That's absolutely right. That's right.
So, but I mean, I think that what people need to understand is that, like, look, it's a symbiotic relationship here with your property management company for different reasons. Number one, protecting your asset. Number two is generating revenue. But the third thing is, again, is creating a going concern that at some point in the future, when you sell your property, that cash flow in the past and the future is going to help you raise the value of your property as well. Because if I'm sitting at two identical properties, say both at $500,000, one has never rented, but the other one rents and actually has probably $50,000 of future revenue, it's an easy decision. Like I've just got, there's 50 grand taken off my price there. So I'm actually getting it for 450 versus 500. It comes with all these reviews and comes with everything. So that relationship is just so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, there have been times where we were asked not to manage a house anymore. Basically, we got fired because the seller was afraid we do too much. That's on the negative side. On the positive side, we can help real estate agents all day long, help them sell a property because we know the maintenance schedule. We have our own in-house maintenance team. And we keep track of everything digitally. So we have digital reports on any time we enter the property or the house. We are making a record of that, photos and notes, and that is held forever. So we can go back 3-4 years on some homes. When was the last time that air conditioner was fixed? When was this? So when you're selling the property, all of that information is available. And to your point, in terms of bookings and things like that, that is something that a new owner can walk right into. It's seamless. And also the other thing that in terms of what owners can do is make sure they do not use the home between December and April. A lot of people buy homes in Costa Rica because they live in the Northern Hemisphere and they get tired of the cold. And I'm from Minnesota, so I know it gets 20 below in January. I get it. But if your goal, when an owner tells us, well, our goal is to maximize revenue, I say, great. And our owners can use their house anytime they want. There's no charge. They can use it anytime they want. But when those same owners then book 10 days in January, and then I say, well, you just cost yourself between, up to depending on the house, between $4,000 and $10,000. Don't come to me in December or January when we go through the annual review. You say, well, I wish we would have generated more revenue. Well, we could have, but if your goal is truly to maximize that return, then owners need to stay out of their home during that time, or just understand that they're sacrificing thousands of dollars. You're sacrificing reviews. You're sacrificing potentially the future value of that house when it sells, because now when we supply, if you ask for it, the rental revenue and the rental reports for the real estate agent, that could be another $10,000 to $15,000 a year that you've sacrificed by using that. So extrapolate that for 5 years, you've given up $75,000 of revenue. For those days that you've used. So owners really need to think about that. And if they want to use it for themselves, that's perfectly, of course, it's their house. But just think that through.
Or use it like really last minute.
Last minute, high season or low season, all day. You can low season. I always encourage owners to come down. Low season. I just got off the phone with a gentleman who's evaluating several homes, and I'm giving him my opinion on that. And he said, Nick, listen, I've got 3 Airbnbs in the United States. This is purely financial. This is a purely financial decision. We will never be there in high season, ever. Great. That because even if it's last minute, we require a 48-hour window reservation, but in the high season, we're in the 90% occupancy. Some are almost 100%. Yeah. So we will catch those last minutes, whether there's a foreigner traveling to a new area, like traveling to Manuel Antonio or traveling to Uvita for the first time, and they jump online 3 days before, they're going to book those 2, and we have 2 to 3 day minimums. So to pick up those 2 days that are open, that might happen. So it's something to really think about.
Well, let me just touch on something that you mentioned there. Again, from someone looking at a pure investment point of view of investing in your area. I mean, if you were to summarize what products rents the best in that area, or if you were to build something there, what would it look like, Nick?
It would be it would be 2 different styles. One would be walking distance to the beach is one. Yep. So no views, but walking distance to the beach. The other one would be great ocean views. In today's world, renters like modern designs. So clean lines, high ceilings, lots of airflow, so those are 2 totally different extremes. You would want to go to a minimum of 3 bedrooms, 3 to 4 bedrooms minimum. Even 4 is better. You get to 5 bedrooms, and there actually is a kind of a diminishing returns. However, if you have the square footage, it's never going to hurt you. Your marginal cost, your extra cost is really just some bedding. So if you can get more bedrooms, that's ideal. But the sweet spot would be that 3 to 4 bedroom, walk to the beach and by walking, I mean less than 10 minutes or less, or just killer ocean views with great architecture.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I always say, like, look, it's either closeness to the beach or it is those views, and because, I mean, especially in your part of the country, I mean, those views are pretty, I mean, everywhere, but like, I mean, that whale's tail view is, pretty exceptional.
Spectacular.
And I'm sure people request, I need a whale's tail view. I'm sure you have people that just like, I just want whale's tail view.
Yes.
Yeah, but we've got this other great house that like hasn't a maid. I just want whale tail view.
That's right. Well, and not only that, one of our best performing homes, it is a solid 30 to 35 minutes to the beach, but the views will blow you away. It's up a rough road for a good 20 minutes of that is 4x4 access only, but the home is spectacular. It's only 3 bedrooms, but the architecture is gorgeous. 15-foot ceilings, floor to floor to ceiling windows and sliding glass. Everything opens up into one huge space for a pool, deck. So that's not even anywhere near the beach, but you have that oasis. You are alone. You are by yourself. You are up there, and the views and the sunsets. One thing too that I just kind of take for granted that I did not mention was you have to have a swimming pool, right? I mean, that goes without saying. Every home we manage has a swimming pool. And in fact, we've turned down about 5 homes this year. We will not manage a home without a pool because we used to do that, and it just became so difficult to rent. And we rent a lot to locals, to Costa Ricans. That's something else that is so often ignored. And in fact, we've heard some racist comments and all sorts of things from owners who have switched property managers to us. We have a solid rental market to the local market. That's why our website's in Spanish and English.
Yep. And they're great. There's a lot of Costa Ricans have a lot of money. I think that's one thing people don't understand is there is a solid middle and upper class here.
Very solid, very strong. We know plenty of doctors and lawyers and business owners. And actually during COVID was good for us. We grew because we were a legally operating property management company, unlike almost a lot of the others. And Costa Ricans, just like the United States, want to get out of the cities. So we had a lot of long-term renters during COVID, but the Costa Rican market is great. And those are where a lot of last-minute renters will come from. Yep. Especially those 3 and 4 bedrooms. They generally are multi-generational in their travel and their vacations. There's that middle, as you mentioned, kind of that middle class, in the mid 40s, it would be the demographic that will have their mom or dad with them, kind of grandma and grandpa, their kids. They're going to bring 6 to 8 people, and they will pay full price and stay at some of our most beautiful homes. And that's something else, but you have to have a pool. I mean, you just have to kind of go full. You have to have a pool for your home.
No, I agree. I mean, you mentioned something there, and I want to ask you about that. I mean, and really the question that kind of comes around that, because you mentioned about, I suppose, legality of a property management company. But I mean, and I'm going to ask the question, what questions would you ask when selecting a property management company?
Well, I hate to say it, but unfortunately, this industry in Costa Rica is, although it's regulated, it's not enforced.
Yeah.
So there are a number of things that property management companies have to have, and it's not even negotiable. One would be you have to be a legally registered business with Hacienda, the tax authorities. Yep. 2, you have to have a patente, which comes from your local municipality.
Yep.
The patente is a permit that that you've notified the local government that you are an operating business, and to get that patente, you have to have an office. So they will inspect your office and make sure it meets all the building codes, all of the even if you're renting it, they'll come in and inspect La Ley 7600 to make sure it's handicap accessible and all of that. That has to be in place to have a patente. The other thing that you have to have, and this is the most violated clause, is you have to be registered with SUGEF, which is SUGEF. That's the Costa Rican's anti-money laundering agency that oversees all real estate companies, property managers, and anyone taking escrow money. So although real estate companies will have it, the designation is a little different on the property management side. So even if the real estate companies that have SUGEF, if they're doing property management, they'll need a separate designation, a separate permit. It's not a permit, but registration. And that is the most violated thing that almost in our region, especially in the Vida Ojachal area, as of now, we don't know another company that has that. It adds cost, and that's why people don't want it, because you have to get CPAs involved, which you have to have anyway as a business, but it's extra fees for them. It always involves a lawyer and a CPA. And basically what that is ensuring is that the government can come in and ask us to prove, because we're accepting prepayments, right? Someone makes a reservation for Christmas. In our case, they're putting 50% down. And we have to hold that 50%. We can't touch that. That has to sit in a separate account, separate bank account that is strictly for prepayments. And the government can say, prove to us you have that in a liquidity account. So it's a cash account at a local Costa Rican bank. So we always have to have that ready. And they do ask and they do check that. And I think, as if I were a property owner, you're buying and owning a home in another country where you live typically thousands of miles away. The last thing you want to do is cut corners when it involves taxes, when it involves the legality of the person that you're entrusting the keys to your home to. So I would absolutely insist they have SUHAF, they have to have a patente, they're registered with the tax authorities. Those are the three big things. And unfortunately, a lot of companies just don't do that. I can tell you from firsthand conversations I've had with owners in the area, they have been told by either real estate agents or property managers at other companies that say you don't have to pay taxes in Costa Rica if the money never touches Costa Rica. That's a falsehood. If the service is taking place in Costa Rica, which in this case it always is, that's where the home is, you have to pay your 13% EVA tax on every reservation. You also have an income tax due at the end of the year. So those are things that you need to make sure your property manager knows the laws about. So, we have an in-house accountant who does all the bill pay. We make sure all your bills are paid. An owner should never have to pay a bill because it's although easy to do, you also can get tax credits back on the EVA tax you've paid on the rentals and all the other services you're paying for. So make sure that and I expect this to the legality as the money gets bigger and bigger, the enforcement will hopefully start coming in more and more. But if you're investing a significant amount of money in a second property, you want to make sure that you have legal recourse to get that money back. Because we have been approached. This has unfortunately happens about every 3 months. We'll pick up a house, we'll start managing, and one of their first questions to us is, hey, I've got X number of thousands of dollars tied up at the old property management company. Can you help me get that? And I say, well, are they registered with SUHAF? They're like, no, I don't even know what that is. They said they didn't need it or whatever. And it's like, no, there's nothing we can do because you just gave money to someone who's working there illegally. Yeah. And that's the other problem. The other problem is, a lot of times homeowners will hire property managers who speak English, generally speaking English, the same way they do, which means they're either American or Canadian, and not paying attention to the fact whether or not that American or Canadian can actually work in Costa Rica. Even as a resident of Costa Rica, if you're not a permanent resident, you have no legal right to work day-to-day operations of a business. You can own a business, but you can't work in the business.
Yep.
Now, if you're a permanent resident, you can do anything and work anywhere and do any job in Costa Rica. So those would be the big things to look at because, again, as a homeowner standpoint, you want to look at going with a property management company that has more than one or two people. I mean, take the extreme example in COVID. When COVID hit, we grew. We had homeowners calling us in tears that said, I don't know where my property manager is. I don't know where my keys are. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to. I mean, it was panic.
Basically, Nick, the tide went out and you saw who was wearing like their swimsuit and who wasn't, right?
Yes.
Basically, that happened.
Yeah. Well, and again, we just picked up a house yesterday where they were evaluating us versus another company. And I said, tell me more about that. They said, well, it's one person. I said, what happens if they want to take a vacation or they get sick or what's going to happen?
It's a one-leg stool.
That's exactly it.
Basically. But I mean, it's interesting. Do you remember a company called Mead Brown? Talking SUHAF. Anyway, Mead Brown went gung-ho a while back in Costa Rica and walked off with all clients' money, and they were not SUHAF registered. But I mean, they were big. I mean, they were doing like 60, 70 properties, but they were not SUHAF registered, back then. So, I mean, this stuff happens, unfortunately. Costa Rica, as we say sometimes, is a sunny place for shady people. So you just need to do your research and, just ask around and speak to previous people that are working with these people and ask those difficult questions of like, how do you separate your operational capital from my capital, basically, and see how the response is there.
That's exactly right. And again, we know, we understand the idea that we like that most foreigners, and I'm going to say Americans because I can talk about that. They like to talk to other Americans. They feel like they can trust them more, but they're not looking at it. And they're buddies, and they can go have a drink with them, and they're our friends, and that's fine. Go have your drinks with whomever you wish. But when you give the keys to your house, the keys to your own castle to somebody, make sure that they are properly vetted.
Yeah, Nick. When do you believe that there is a lack of product in your area? I mean, what would you like to see more of? I mean, you mentioned stuff that does really well, but I mean, is it the same answer to like what you'd like to have more product of? Like, again, a lot of people are looking to build or to buy, but like, if they're looking to build, I mean, what is there a lack of product of in your opinion?
I think I'll tell you what there's too much of. I think too often, and this is more indicative of the real estate agents, and or kind of a belief system of buyers. There's a big belief of, well, if I buy a big enough piece of property or I buy a house and there's room to build another casita, I'm going to do that because more rooms equals more money. And I couldn't argue that. That's so opposite of what the truth is. Ever since COVID, people want privacy. The last thing they want is a bunch of people they don't know. And as a father of two teenagers and a teenage girl, the last thing I want is to spend time in another country, or if I didn't have my business, but to have my daughter come down and spend time with sharing a swimming pool with a bunch of people I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, people are paying for privacy. So there's a lot of people that will jump down and buy a property and say, I'm going to build 5 casitas, I'm going to build 3 casitas. And that's not what the clients want. That's not what guests want. What I would say is, you know, the more you can do to differentiate yourself, you know, there's a lot of, like an hotel has quite a few, and we manage quite a few of them. The homes are all the same, they're cookie cutter. So you really, truly cookie cutter, same pool, same dimensions inside. You know, if you're going to do that, then make something unique in terms of paint schemes, put highlight walls in. You need to stand out somehow. If you're buying a raw piece of land that you can build anything you want, then do something that's professional, and classy is kind of a weird word for it, but make sure it's a little more upscale. Because when you're talking rentals, the high-end stuff can always go down in price. You know, that's what we see in the low season. Beautiful 4-bedroom houses or 3-bedroom houses. You know, an owner can say, Nick, cut that price way down. I just want somebody in there to generate revenue. That's fine. If you have kind of a cabin or a casita, there's only so low you can go. So, you know, if a renter can say, well, heck, for an extra $50 a night, I get a luxury home versus a casita. Obviously, the luxury home is going to win 10 out of 10 times. So I think what's missing is that sort of, and part of it is just the growth, right? I remember, again, where Uvita was nothing. I mean, I remember cows, right? Where BCR.
I remember the road. I remember it used to take forever, the bumpy roads to get down. I mean, you destroy your car just driving south in this country.
Yeah, I mean, it was from my very first trip in 2005 was when we flew to Capos, and then the vacation rental.
You were lucky. You flew to Capos.
I did.
Those bridges. I remember the bridges trying to get to Capos, where sometimes you'd have to.
Well, I was headed south though. I was headed south to Dominical. Wow. So the 13 bridges, it took 2.5 hours.
Yep. Wow.
It takes 30 minutes now. So yeah, it was brutal. So I mean, there's kind of the old guard that remembers those days, and finds that charming. And when we saw this and had this discussions about when Dominical, I mean, back in 2005, they were talking about paving the road in Dominical, which obviously eventually happened another 15 years later, or 14. But kind of the old guard said, well, this is the charm of Dominical, is the bumpy road and the dust in downtown, and other people coming in spending $1 million or $2 million for a home, saying, I just spent $1 million for a home. I don't want to have my wife or myself or my kids fight through dust to go to the beach in Dominical, right? So there's kind of this dichotomy of the charming old ways and the new ways, and right or wrong, the new ways are going to win, I think.
They will. The old guard just keeps moving south. Like,
yes, that's right.
It was Manuel Antonio, then to Dominical, then to Uvita, now Hochau, now moving down to Tres Rios. Like, they just keep moving further south.
Yeah, it's, you know, will be Sierra. I expect Sierra to have big growth. I expect, you know, Puerto Jimenez has already been growing, but even that is, you know, that's a ways out if you want to drive it. It's great to fly into. So yeah, I think, you know, the services are picking up, right? I mean, it's great. I can tell you as a homeowner and as a business owner, having you know, more retail options are great. Again, there's a little bit of pushback on that as well, of having more grocery stores. But you know, BM is a locally owned grocery store chain, you know, owned by a family out of San Vito, and they're growing. And they, you know, Walmart with Maxi Pauli just opened in Uvita several months ago. That, you know, love it or hate it, it's great to be able to go there and get supplies.
Well, I apologize, because we're building all the Pequeño Mundos. We're project managing all the Pequeño Mundos in Costa Rica. We're doing one in Pedernales, and there's going to be one coming in Quepos. So
love it. That's listen. We trying to have when a renter breaks or not breaks intentionally. It's just sometimes you know, a beach chair or a sun chair by the pool. That might be, you might have to go to Haco to get one, because we've bought them everywhere at Colono, at the hardware store. We've gone to Cape. I mean, it's challenging sometimes, that day-to-day stuff we just take for granted in North America. You know, if Colono's out of plungers, right? Then now where do you go, right? It's simple things like that the Pequeño Mundos and the Maxi Polis always have. The supply chain, and during COVID, the supply chains really got pinched. And when you think about on a macro global level, like Costa Rica is 5 million people. So if I'm a manufacturer, that's like a big city or a big metro area in the United States. I'm not going to spend a lot of time supplying that country. And then San Jose's 80% of the people of the country or more, if you look at the metropolitan area. So the time that supply can make it down to Uvita, Ojo Chao, we just hope it's there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely. Well, Nick, this has been great. I have one more question before we end the podcast, which I love to ask everyone. If you inherited $500,000 and had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you invest it in and why?
I would buy old homes in Uvita.
Yep.
I'm almost afraid to say this out loud, but I would buy old, beat up Costa Rican homes in Uvita and tear them down and build up.
I think it's smart.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to help me out on that, I would be more than happy to partner or to be a partner on a deal like that.
Well, I mean, look, we do a lot of that as well, because the permitting process to do a refurb is completely different than a brand new. It already has its water letter, already has electrical availability. Depending on what you're going to do, maybe you do need to expand, the foundation a little bit, but maybe you don't. Like, it just depends. But I completely agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
I do too. And I think, people are going to appreciate that, and renters. And by the way, I mean, the local market, like we mentioned earlier, the middle class Costa Ricans are also doing this right now. So this is not, there's always kind of want to hedge that answer, because some people feel like we're pushing out the locals. Well, not really. The locals own a lot of businesses and
own a lot of land. Own a lot of land. Like, I could not, the guy I bought land from in Ojo Chao, I was like, how much land do you have? Like, and sold it all. Like, just was like, I'm 80 years old. I don't want it going to my kids because they'll only fight over it. I want to sell it all and I want to go and enjoy it. And I'm like, great work, sir. Great work.
That's right. I mean, and there's still farms to be bought. I mean, it's just how big a check can you write? We bought, and I own 150 acres in San Buenos next door to the golf course, right? We bought that 16, 17 years ago. So, it takes time, and, we're working on a 200 home development, but that stuff takes time. And that's, when people start doing business in Costa Rica, and it's true too in North America for development work, but, I know your listeners are kind of all levels, whether it's home or developments, as well as anybody, just kind of the permitting process, but buying those homes that already have water and electricity, those two things may sound insignificant. They're huge. They're absolutely huge and critical if you're going to do investments there.
Definitely. Well, Nick, this has been absolutely amazing. I appreciate you open up your trick, your bag of tricks here, and kind of giving some of this knowledge out here. Anyone that wants to contact Nick, I'll put all of his contact details and also property management in the description down below. But Nick, really appreciate you coming on the podcast, sir.
I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
Not at all. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that podcast there with Nick at Osa Property Management. As you can see, he's a wealth of knowledge. And we didn't go too much into the tech stack questions that I usually have, just because there was so much, it was so rich with information on also revenue and design and things that you can do to just really maximize that revenue at your vacation rental there. So remember, those guys work from Manuel Antonio all the way down to the Osa Peninsula. So that's quite a stretch of beach line there. And just a viewpoint that he gets having, 50 plus vacation rentals is very unique as well. So if you want to reach out to Nick, all of his contact details are in the description below. Remember, if you want to reach out to us for help on investing or purchasing in Costa Rica, kind of making sure that you make the right move for you, reach out to us. Again, we do everything from, making sure, even if it's a condo investment, that could be $150,000, $100,000, making sure you're making the right move for you, and also kind of the financial model behind it. It could be, up to a huge development. We're actually developing a 20 home development up in Arenal at the moment, which is actually our own personal development anyway. So you can reach us, info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. But till the next podcast, guys, we'll catch you later. Bye.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.